I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I probably leave it tonight. Yeah. Okay. Um, so right. Good. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. We have sort of a light agenda, but we'll see how it goes with the different reports. Um, Once, I wanted to thank the officers who are here. I know that you have to take from your busy days to come here. I wanted to thank you. I know we have a couple of questions and you have a couple of things that you're going to discuss. As far as Middle Neck Road goes, they have started doing some repair on the sidewalks and the catch basins, and they're doing the curbs as well in the areas that are broken. So it is moving forward. I don't have the exact timeline. I just don't know how that's going to work yet. We will have the H2M to also give a presentation afterwards about Hurricane Ida and what has happened, what they have, the studies they've done. So I'm going to ask I think the agenda to begin with Nassau County Police Department report.
So Mary, here's the report that we have received. There are the number of the accidents and who needs help.
You want us to face you guys or face the? I speak loud so I can cover the whole room. All right, guys. Hello. Good evening. I'm Steve Krakowski. I'm from Nassau County Police Homeland Security Unit. These are your two officers from the 6th Precinct, Officer Altieri and Officer Vilches. We're here to talk to the board and the mayor and I guess the community at large. The school district has come to us through our commissioner of police, through our local commands, with some serious concerns about the traffic in front of the high school during drop-off times and pickup times. This has been an issue. I was a pop officer before I moved on to Homeland. This has been an issue since I've been here since 2004. This is not a new issue. It's probably been a million years before that. What happened is the school has outgrown the neighborhood. You know, the streets are too small. So we were just asked to come here and see if we could come to we want to set up a meeting with you guys and the school as well going forward. So this is just first steps as we give you guys the schools and mostly actually residents have come to us directly about their concerns. And the concerns are the stop signs around the school. They would love to have those blinking, what are those solar powered stop signs that give a little more visibility for people to see, as well as potentially a redesigned traffic circle, which I think would be a nightmare because you don't have really any room there to rework it. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm sure your traffic specialists are more better equipped to handle that type of question. But the school is concerned that someone's going to get hurt there. There's going to either be an accident. What happens is when the people double park, kids are going in between the cars, people are on their phones and zipping out, and there's a potential for a tragedy to happen. So what we want to do is fix that before that happens. I mean, a couple of years ago there was some enforcement by the police up there, but really to write the parents' tickets is not really the answer. You know, we want to fix it structurally as opposed to fixing it with tickets. Because if we write a ticket one day, 2 days later that ticket will be forgotten and we won't be there, and we'll be right back to square one. So we're trying to reinvent that area, to re-engineer that area. It doesn't have to be a major construction project, but at the very least, if we put some higher-end stop signs with those blinking lights, I started to see them. I guess that's you guys who are putting them up around the village. If we might be able to put a few in that area, and we'll meet with you guys in the school. The principal, Principal Kaplan at the school has some major concerns about that as well. And this is not a new thing. It's not new to this board. It's not new to this police department. It's not new to you guys as residents. This is just an ongoing problem that we're now trying to fix. So we're just starting discussions with the village, and we're going to bring them together with the school, and that's pretty much where we're at with that. But again, at the very least, we'd like to install or work on those stop signs and then figure out from there with your experts, with your traffic team, what the best solution. There's been suggestions about making it one way for 10 minutes. Would that work? Again, I'm not a traffic engineer, neither are these guys. I know Joe had a few ideas, but we could throw them all out there and maybe find something that might actually keep the kids safe. So,
So what we were thinking was actually, would you be actually open to making coming northbound from Old Mill, you would only be able to go on Polo northbound further up the beach, or you could turn Nirvana, Brokaw, or continue north. If you had to get out to Middle Neck, you'd still be able to. I know up by Saddle Rock on Hawthorne, they have dedicated hours for school where they make, I think it's Hawthorne one way during school times. Um, that could be a suggestion or an idea. Also, too, like we were talking with Abraham, maybe if the village would be able to provide maybe some kind of barriers or barrels where the school could deploy during those times where you don't come around the circle back and make that U-turn, cause congestion, um, and they would only be out there during the school drop-offs and pickups. Because if you don't have anything, most people, like, if we're not there or an official's not there, they're not gonna wait. It's just human nature. They're like, all right, I'm just make the U-turn and I'm gonna turn around and no one's gonna stop me, and then it causes a traffic jam or congestion. The circle probably was built when the school was built, so there wasn't as many cars on the road. And like Officer Kukowski said, the pandemic has caused a nightmare with the schools. A lot of the parents don't want to put their kids on the bus, so they still don't feel safe.
The buses are about 50% capacity.
Yeah, they're pretty much,
Maybe even lower.
yeah, they're very empty. So a lot of parents are driving the kids, which causes a traffic problem. That circle wasn't meant to handle that much traffic. That's where a lot of the problem is. So we're open to any ideas to try to fix this.
Are there any other places? I know that everybody wants to drop their kids off exactly where the entrance is. Are there any other entrances that they can possibly try? Or maybe they can dilute the traffic instead of everybody
Right.
coming here,
Set
they
up
can
an
go.
open and drop off.
Right.
Yeah, the main entrance is, this is the problem. The kids don't want to walk half a block, where it would make some of the traffic problems alleviate. Everyone wants to drop off right in front of the school.
Directly in front of that gate.
Not even like if that's the entrance and the car in front of me is letting out, they don't let the kids out and they're right behind them. We have this problem in Manhasset where the security guards are actually like directing the cars to move up because
It backs up to
it
Plainville
just
Road.
backs up, and they won't let, they just want to drop the kids right off in front of the school. So we're open to any kind of.
It needs to be a cooperation between the parents, the school, and all of us, the police and the village. So this is just an opening. We don't really know. We're just throwing it out there. But the school, I can tell you from, I don't. I can tell these guys can talk from the 6th precinct, but my team has gotten complaints. Somebody's apparently called our commissioner, and that's gotten siphoned back down to us. So which is why we're all trying to get involved and see what we can do to make it work. We don't want any kids to get hit. That's just the bottom line. There's some foliage there. Maybe we can cut some of that back, but that's really not the issue. The issue is the double parking and the kids. They have the same issue at the middle school, which will be coming up, I'm sure, the next few weeks also, because that's apparently a big issue too. The double parking is what drives people nuts. What drives the school mad because the kids are going in between the cars, and then one car is not looking for that kid to be cutting through, and they're like jamming on their brakes. Thankfully, there hasn't been any incidents. There's been a bunch of accidents, but not injuries. So
The problem too is a lot of the schools, the kids are going, parents have schools in the middle school and a high school, so they'll wrap around and go around there,
right,
causing traffic.
that's right.
So then that's another reason why there's more traffic there too, is because you have to pick up both kids in middle school and high school. So they gotta go back, reroute, and then now they're just jamming up the traffic.
Is there a way that we can have an aerial view of exactly how, I mean, not just a shot, but just maybe an
Videotape
hour or
it.
two.
It would be great to do it during the drop off.
But they should,
Right.
I think they should make designated drop-off stalls along Polo.
But no, but
So
what he's
when
saying, they
people
don't want to
pull
walk.
up, wherever you are, you drop
That's
the
the thing,
kid
yeah.
there, and then everybody leaves at once.
Bart,
If they
that-
would all drop and the 20 cars would let out at once,
Yeah.
that would alleviate a lot of the problem. But they, exactly like Joe said, they will
No, they're
wait.
waiting to.
They'll wait to get up, and they'll wait like almost gridlock. The 2 kids will get out, the next car will pull up and let the kids out. They won't just open. Like my kids take. I told my kids to take the bus. I'm not dealing with this in my school district, But they don't want to get out. Like you have to kind of. That's not
You
our
see,
problem. to
the
deal with,
the
but-
issue is, I am, therefore you must give me, is an issue that unfortunately a lot of parents are dealing with now. So I think the fact that you can't drop your kid off, 200 feet away from the school, probably is the cause of this gridlock. I
Even
mean,
if we could do something like you said through the parking lot is huge now.
Yeah.
Right.
So there might be something, an aerial view would be very helpful, because then you could see exactly what's open, what's gridlocked, what's really going on. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys could order that, or how that would work. You guys have a drone, or,
Well, we don't have a drone, but I'm sure.
there's definitely companies that, or the
Um,
school district could do it. You could go
well,
to-
that's. I think that what we need to do is to find out what school district is willing to do.
Right.
I mean,
So
We don't even have a drone.
I think one of these, I don't know if you guys are available during the day.
We should get a pop
If we could
drone.
ever set a meeting up with the district and you guys, that would be a great start.
I think. Who's your point? You. They'll
Any
speak.
of us.
Right. So I think Abraham, we want to set up a meeting. We set up a meeting already for Friday, maybe. Was that with the cops? No. 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 There was another meeting on Friday.
Traffic also there. So we haven't even
Right.
heard that yet.
No, we haven't.
He came in
Yeah.
yesterday afternoon.
Well, the main
And this is
problem.
not, I just want to stress, this is not a problem for you guys. This is every town USA.
Yeah.
This is a problem every school district.
Well, the problem is none of the kids are taking the buses because
Yeah.
because of COVID. So a lot of parents are scared to put the kids
So if
on
this
the
is
bus.
if it's the COVID was not here 4 years ago. You're saying this
Yeah,
is a
well, now
problem
it's
4 years
even
ago.
more because there's more kids.
It's exasperated, right?
Right.
But they're not enforcing the use of that parking lot. Right now, we see kids parking on neighboring streets. They're moving their cars there for 2 hours so that they don't get a ticket.
You can't enforce use of the parking lot.
Can you use your microphones
maybe, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not, you're right, we can't enforce the use of the parking lot, except the school has to give some direction. And that direction has to be to the parents, it shouldn't have to come from the village. It should be coming
Well-
from the school.
Right. So I think the right way is to have a few of us, of the trustees, the cops, and the school district to really get together and see. And I really do believe if we can have the aerial video of exactly how things are, how many people, how the cars are coming, how they're turning, because you can actually look at it not live, but you can see exactly what's going on. Because right now I'm hearing people are doing this,
Right, you can't see it.
but then when you speak to the school, they can tell you it doesn't happen that way. You can speak to us, no, it really doesn't happen that way. So everyone has their own way,
And
right?
the other issue is, this is not this isn't even a half an hour. This is literally like probably 8 to 12 minutes. It's quick. It's
Right.
not like we don't need to do all this stuff for a long period of time. Whatever the
Sir?
group decides to do, it's going to be very brief. It shouldn't be an inconvenience to the village residents.
It's like 7:45 to 8 and it's done, it's
Exactly.
over.
That's
Literally.
about it.
But also, my suggestion is all the cars should come up from Beach Road up Polo and drop it all along the school there, not down Polo, not
the
down,
other side.
Right.
not down all the other roads, all coming up. If you
Again,
could,
the school would have insight, exactly like the mayor. The school would have insight on how they set this up as well.
Right. I mean, you also have to realize anything you do to any of these roads to say that you can't come this way, you have to come the other way, then you're going to create significant amount of gridlock. If you imagine the 5 directions cars coming to the school, now you're saying all these cars have to go through one direction. You're going
That's
to
gonna
create
be worse.
gridlock.
Major traffic
I could see it being worse.
I'm just saying, and then drop them all, there should be 20 drop-offs, not just right in front of the school.
Right. It's like almost like the airport.
Listen,
But I
Steve,
know.
again, he nailed it in the head. The fact that nobody wants to be dropped off, half
I
a
know.
block away is an issue.
I know, it's the same thing at the middle school. Everybody wants to go right for the
Right.
2 spots.
So maybe,
Right, at the middle school, the traffic will be backed up to, is it Arundel?
To, Arundel.
Yeah, and the kids, no one will get out. They'll
No,
just wait
no.
until they get up to that.
Right to that, they'll wait 20 minutes right to get to
We
that.
have parents that show up an hour before
For
the
pickup.
school lets off. They get that spot right in the front, be the first car waiting there.
And if the child's not getting picked up, they'll
Yeah.
sit there.
They sit
Other
there
cars
and wait.
going around.
Right, if that kid stays late to talk to their teacher or something, that car will just sit there until that kid comes out. There's no order. There's no A, B, C. It's not alphabetical. It's just when they come out, they come out.
Don't they ticket?
So we just wanted to open up a dialogue and
Okay,
start
all right.
the ball rolling.
all right, beautiful. So I think I'm going to ask either Abraham or Brian to reach out to the school and you guys, and we'll sit down and see what we can do. All right, thank you very much.
Well, we're here, any local issues in the village that we could address while we're here?
I think it's the same issues that we always have. People are still speeding in certain areas. I think it would be great to have some more enforcement, make sure that people are not blowing through these stop signs. We had to change some of the stop signs and put the blinking ones. I believe since we have put those, we have not had accidents in those areas, so it may be working. I don't know. I think we need a little bit of a longer period to maybe do this study. Um, I mean, if you can send a message to county that really we would, we would love to have these speedometers. I know that I've spoken to them in past, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and every time speed radars. Um, and I was told that we're going to get it, but I think if you guys say it, um, we should be able to. And I mean, it has come to a point that we say, village is going to spend the money, but we can't really put it on Middle Neck Road. We can't put it on a lot of areas that people do speed, and I think those are the areas that the county really needs to address. Other than that, I think, thank God, so far.
We've handled the problem with the park with the drinking.
Right.
The one guy, he's gone. He hasn't
Where
been
do you
back.
put him?
Well, no, that one guy is gone, but we have others.
No,
Oh, you still have a few others. On that guys, we send them over there, and then it's not to get rid of them, but as soon as you do, they come right back.
he was.
He did a couple weeks ago.
Oh, he got out?
He got up.
How many days was he there?
He was there for a few weeks.
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, listen, you can't hold him forever.
Yeah, I'm sure he has to go back. I would imagine, but then again, today.
That's like a time served.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of, but
We don't wanna take your whole evening, so.
no, but great. Thank you very
Maybe
much.
some
for
things
coming.
when we have a meeting.
Definitely, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you're gonna talk to Joe and set it up?
I'll talk to you next week.
Perfect. And we'll bring in the school and we'll set up.
Great.
Awesome.
Very good. Thank you very much, guys.
I have a son in high school, and when I go to pick him up, I see some of the older high school kids, the way they drive is horrible. They just go zoom and zoom in, zoom out, and I'm so surprised, like, they don't get, it's
Ticketed?
very dangerous. They just go, they speed, and they don't even know what they're doing. They're high school kids, and this is, it's very dangerous.
We're gonna
I
let,
see it almost, sorry,
No, no.
almost every day. Hit
We'll
car,
have
crash
enforcement,
car,
yeah.
and they just,
Exactly.
We'll start doing is we're gonna put in our enforcement car over there.
That's
And
all,
then they'll
that's
give out
all they do.
tickets. That's his whole thing is give out
so many
tickets.
kids walk, or, and they're like,
And if they do it like if they do it every few days or once a week or once,
Yeah.
then the message gets out that you don't know when he's gonna be there, but actually he's gonna be there.
thank you so much.
All right?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Gentlemen, have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Also,
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, we are.
there's a woman that, not that this happened, there's a woman police officer that I always want to get a chance to go back and tell her how much I appreciate what she did that night. I don't remember her name. She walked in like 4 feet of water in my house and my neighbor's house. And if you see her or you know who we're talking about, just tell her how appreciative we are. We know that that's not typically her, that these things come up in her line of duty also, how much we appreciate her. What is her, do you know who?
No, there's a few of them. You know what she looks like?
She had like dark hair. I think she was like probably middle aged, and then she's a little bit taller, like 5'6", 5'7".
Was it at night?
Yes.
Yeah, the
at
flood.
11 o'clock.
Someone?
You can check, but.
No, it was like an Italian last name.
Castellano.
Yes.
Thank all of them.
But she was so sweet and so kind. I just wanted to, tell her how much we appreciate her.
One other thing, 130 Baker Hill Road, we've been getting numerous complaints. The house is,
That's
They
right.
are, there is a stop order on the house. They keep violating it. The
130
someone's having
Baker?
issues. Sorry?
130 Baker.
Yes.
If they have a stop work order on that house, if the building inspectors go there and order them to leave the premises and they don't leave, could they call the police to
Yeah.
you guys,
Enforce it?
that?
yeah. If they're not leaving, the building They're working at night though. The neighbors now are calling at night, complaining about the noise.
Okay.
So they
there
should-
is actually a stop work order
Yeah.
posted on the
Oh,
door.
yeah, it's on the door, clearly,
Yeah.
and, there's
Can we
complaints.
fine them per day?
They've issued several summonses.
No, no, but we could issue a fine per day.
No, if they
Well,
remove the sign, per New York state law, yes,
Mhm.
but,
But if they continue working,
What if you lock it? What if you put a,
that's the question to them.
can't you
I'm
put a
not
lock
sure
on the
exactly
door,
answer.
so?
I'm not familiar with this particular situation, but if there's a stop work order in effect, both the police can direct them to leave, and alternatively, you can obtain a court order directing them to leave, which if they violate, then becomes contempt of court, for which they can be both fined and or imprisoned.
gee, I thought
Who's
they
the owner?
stopped. They still have it.
It's a new owner, and I don't know exactly the name. Yeah, it used to be bank owned, and then they got it back. There have been multiple complaints about the premise.
Is this the person who says he doesn't speak English?
No, that's another one. That's on Radnor.
What should the night guys do?
They, well, could they tell them to leave?
Oh, yeah,
Because
no, they could tell them
they
to
have
leave, that's
they-
fine.
They have to leave.
Is there a contact for the village so we could get them at Hank, or?
Is this the
Who,
corner,
officer? I can
Steve,
get
is this
you
the corner of
Steve's
Duxbury?
card. The
Yeah.
building,
Isn't
I'll
it
get you
130
the
Baker Hill?
superintendent's card.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no work being done there on that house.
No.
There should be work being done.
I'm
but there's
looking at
not.
130
130?
Baker Hill Road. I think that's.
It's at the White House when you go just above the hill. It's when you go toward like your house. It's on the right side.
Oh, it's Bentley.
Corner of Bentley.
Oh, so that's the same one. No, that's
Corner of what street?
That's Duxbury.
It's on the southwest
The Duxbury is
corner of,
the house that there's no work
Baker
being
and-
done in 10 years.
it's the southwest corner of Baker and Bentley. And just to show you what it looks like. This is one.
A Romanian couple, they just bought their house, and they're in everything in. They issued so many, like, notice of violation and summons and stop work orders. They just don't pay 'em. They keep doing it. So every time that they take down the stop work order,
It's actually, I believe, $1,000 per day that they take out the stop work order. And Steve been noticing it and issued summons, but there's no other thing that we could do except that,
Court
take
order.
him-
But what
We can
happens if,
take them to court and then,
I think we could let the police go in the meantime.
yeah.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
Good night, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
And then they have to come to court and they have to see the judge, and the judge is the one who's going to say how much the fine will be. Either they have to pay it, and if they don't pay it, we can put a lien on the house for the same
So they have a
amount.
summons. Do we have a court date?
That's a question to Steve, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because if
Well,
you're
the
saying
summons
that
should have a court date.
Oh, then if there's
They
some
should, yeah.
issued, then.
Yeah.
has he issued summons or just
Yes.
notices?
No, the first it was notice of violation, then it was a stop work order. When she didn't stop, then it was issued
Has anybody spoken to the owner?
many times,
The actual owners you've
Yes.
many times.
what about the contractor? Because if the contractor is violating this,
Those contractors that they've been seen on the premise, they have been told if they go back there, they're not going to be issued any other permits, and they have left.
oh, so they left.
Yes, I know at least of the HVAC contractor, the owner told him to come over the weekend, and Steve found out, and he told him, if you show up there, you're not getting any more permits from the village, so he bailed out.
Okay.
But many of the contractors are not even
Chutzpah.
registered with the village.
Right, right.
Man, gutsy. Very nice. Who do they work for?
Let's
Okay.
move on.
Here's the report of the accidents for the month of September.
So this is all September, right?
Yes. And the second page to it.
Old Mill Road again. Middle
Good news is there's no accident on Forest. and Hicks, or Hampshire and Baker.
All right, so listen, maybe we have to invest more on those lights.
LEDs.
Is there a way, Brian I think we need to see if we can get some kind of a grant.
We could,
Brian, I think if you can mention, if you go back, I'm sure you have the report, and every time if you go on Fairview and Hampshire, well, Fairview and Hampshire we didn't put the blinking stop sign, but just with stop sign. But
Correct.
on Hicks and
Forest.
We did, and we also did on Hampshire and Baker. At least those two places. If you go back on Hicks and Forest, used to be multiple accidents, and now we haven't. Thank God we haven't had any for past almost a year or so.
More than that.
Right. So I think if we can use that as sort of a study and send a letter to the state and maybe the county and ask them for some kind of a grant, and then we can use. I'm not saying every single stop sign, but we can actually use it for more places. At least, we have a bunch of places. I've seen this on Old Mill and not that over there is. I don't know how they can get into an accident. There's a red light.
Right.
Baker, no, I'm sorry, Middle Neck Road and Old Mill. That's a bad intersection. I think it's Old Mill, Middle Neck Road, and Piccadilly.
They're
So
not
that-
aligned.
Yeah. Do we have the same number of accidents anyone knows by Hicks and Middle Neck Road, or not so many there?
Arundel.
And right, Arundel, Hicks, and Middle Neck.
Again, it's not lined up.
I know it's not aligned, but I don't know if you're getting a lot of accidents there.
We got a few accidents last year, driving southbound on the
Baker and Middle Neck Road.
There are two accidents. One on. Just the one I just saw it just a moment ago.
Hicks, Middle Neck Road. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, let's move on.
The next item on the agenda is the Department of Public Works September and August 2021 report.
You got-
The next item is the Building Department September 2021 report. It's on the screen. This is the report.
This is it.
A detailed report. I don't have that.
It's usually in a spreadsheet.
With the fees, yeah, they're gonna send it.
The breakdown.
It doesn't say how many summonses were issued.
34.
That's violations. That's notice of violation.
No,
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's combined.
it's
We'll check.
Okay. if they are combined, it would be more helpful to separate them. Thank you.
Can we move on? Yes. Okay, the next item is the update on the flooding after Hurricane Ida and H2M presentation.
As we promised,
The heat is off.
Sorry, as we promised, we have asked H2M to get involved in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida to see what could be done and for them to start a search to see what has been done. This is work in progress, and I'm sure it's going to take a while to have all the information ready, but would like to have them to come give a presentation for people who are interested to know.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, members of the public. My name's Mike Keffer. I'm the Director of Civil Engineering at H2M. Here with me tonight is Matt Molen. He's the Department Manager for Civil Engineering at H2M. So we're here tonight to address the repercussions, the effects, the impacts of the tropical depression Hurricane Ida, which was a significant storm event. In fact, it was unprecedented. The rainfall data reported at the time was roughly 5.2 inches of rainfall that night. And what made this storm very unique is within a 1 hour period, 3 inches of rain came down, which from a historical point of view, Laura Curran, a county executive, stated from all the data that they've recorded over the years, it was the most intense storm on record for as long as the county's been recording. So what I wanted to do tonight is to go over some background for the members of the public who were directly affected by this storm, people that lived on Chadwick, Plymouth, and Warwick. We heard from the mayor and the staff of the significant damage to your property. We heard reporting of as high as 3 feet of water in some of the streets, and the tremendous amount of damage it caused. So a couple things we want to do. We want to provide some background to help you understand the challenges that lay in front of us. 20 years ago, roughly, H2M was involved in a study of this area. We want to discuss challenges that we will encounter. This is not an easy solution. In fact, just to stress it, in modern stormwater management, if we were developing this community today, this storm event would have overwhelmed that system. So you were really up against a significant rain event, and clearly by the pictures in the video, I watched video of Middle Neck Road that night, water in the right-of-way, the train station. So we just have to have an understanding that the solutions and the approaches, the mitigation strategies will never solve the event that happened that night. But what we can do going forward are what are the things that can be implemented in the community in these areas to help mitigate potential storm damage in the future. So Mr. Molen here is here tonight. He has led our firm on a number of stormwater management projects in Long Island, the Lower Hudson, and New Jersey. He's seen a lot of different terrain, different communities. He has worked on projects through the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. So he is really adept at seeing a lot of different types of challenges when it comes to stormwater management. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt. At this point, we have one slide here. I'm going to let him go over it. And after that, we'll field questions from the board and members of the public.
Good evening, everybody. So as you can see, I guess you probably have a better view of the screen. This is an aerial image of the drainage system in the area of Croydon Avenue and Plymouth. What you can see is there's lines in blue and red this is the extent of the pipe system that you have in that neighborhood. It originates just north of Croydon Avenue. It does run down Plymouth and through Piccadilly, where it discharges into an open ditch just south of Piccadilly, where ultimately it goes into a county-owned stormwater culvert under Middle Neck Road, and eventually discharges into Udall's Mill Pond. So the size of the watershed contributing to this drainage system is just about 100 acres. So it's a significant amount of water for a pipe network. Typically, you would see larger branches of a system of that nature. What we had found in the study in 2001 was that a lot of the pipes had been undersized. So you can see the area, the pipes identified in red. Those are pipes that are incapable of conveying the capacity from a 10-year storm. For those of you that don't know, a 10-year storm is the design standard for stormwater conveyance systems throughout the industry. If you design the project in New York State and Texas and California, they're generally designed for a 10-year storm event. As Mike mentioned earlier, so we got, on this particular storm from Ida, there was 5.2 inches of rain that fell in a 24-hour period. So put it in perspective, a 24-hour, so that is for a 24-hour event, that is a 10-year storm event. However, 3 of those 5 inches fell in 1 hour. So you had 60% of a 24-hour event compressed into a single hour of the day. So that is an unprecedented amount of water. There isn't a drainage system in the world that's designed to handle something of that magnitude. So combined with an extremely large rain event, you have challenges in this neighborhood in that you have very poor soils. So most of Long Island is constructed, is sand, particularly on the South Shore, except in this part of Long Island, the soils tend to be more clayey. And clay tends to not absorb water as much. You know, sand, you go down to the beach, dump water on the sand, it drains fairly quickly. When you have clay soils, you dump water on clay, it runs off. So you might as well have a giant parking lot up here. So whereas on a sandy soil, you might get 70% of the water that falls draining into the ground, 30% becoming runoff. In this part of Long Island, you're probably getting 70% of the rain that falls generated as runoff, so that's exacerbating the situation. So the study that was done in 2001 focused on the pipe network along Croydon and Plymouth with the discharge south of Piccadilly. At the time, Nassau County was looking at the reconstruction of the culvert under Middle Neck Road. So that was eventually only reconstructed in 2014. We're trying to get a copy of that report right now to find out what level of storm that culvert was sized to. Because if, let's say, for argument's sake, that they sized it for a 10-year storm, it doesn't make any sense to size this system for anything larger than a 10-year storm because the pinch point will ultimately be at the culvert under Middle Neck Road. So right now we're trying to get a copy of the study so then we can further an evaluation of this pipe network. So one of the goals that we're looking to do right now is to reevaluate the capacity of this system. The study that was done back in 2001 was based on some limited data. We have much better topographic data. Since then, the village had retained H2M years ago to provide an inventory of their entire drainage system with pipe inverts, much more detailed information. There were some assumptions made back then. So we have better information to work with now. But with the overall goal would be to find solutions to this problem. One of the more, I guess one of the things we'd be focusing on would be pipe capacity. If in fact the culvert under Middle Neck Road was sized to handle a larger storm event, we can consider sizing this to a larger storm event. I'm not sure if I mentioned previously, this system is not even sized for a 10-year storm event. It's probably sized for a 1 or 2 year return frequency. So you would expect some street flooding on average every 1 to 2 years. Possible solutions that we'd be looking at, in addition to enlarging pipes or adding additional pipe capacity. Possible detention storage. Detention storage would be to provide some sort of underground system that would collect and store the water temporarily. So, ultimately the water, I understand that shortly after the rain event stopped, the water dissipated. So when I hear that, that means the system is functional, meaning that it's not, there's no blockage, there's no cracks, there's no back pitch pipes. It has the ability to convey water, just not that much. So if we can provide detention storage, you collect some of that water that can't be conveyed by the pipe, temporarily store it, and then as the rain subsides, it slowly bleeds back into the system and drains on its merry way. The problem with those types of systems is they typically require a lot of space. When you get off of Long Island, you will typically see these man-made ponds. That's typically what's done in private development. Problem is here we don't have space for such a system, so we have to get creative. We may or may not be able to put them in the roads. Depends on whether there's enough space. It also depends on how much volume we need to provide. I believe there was also some questions that we had been forwarded from the village, from residents about the ability to raise homes. That would solve your individual problem, wouldn't necessarily solve the cause of the problem. But these are things we're going to be looking at. It's critical that we get the information from the county to find out what that conveyance system is designed to handle, and from there we can build upon that to structure a solution for the upstream areas in your neighborhood. So I guess I open up to some questions.
For a one-year storm, how big is the pipe?
It all depends. If you have 1 acre draining into a 1-year storm for 1 acre, needs a pipe this big. A 1-year storm from 100 acres needs a pipe this big. So it's all depending on what's tributary to what catch basin, what section of pipe. It's unique to every
I'm sure
site.
when you say this big, you don't actually mean this big. You mean bigger.
Bigger, yes.
Okay, because
Size
I think
A versus size B, yes.
I don't want people to think it's
No,
just
no,
this big.
no.
It's a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
Discuss.
So,
Possible the village buys a couple of houses and then make that space that you need.
I defer to.
Yeah, that's interesting because one of the drainage studies our office worked on in Mastic Beach was there were a number of homes that were old condition, dilapidated, and the town went in and started acquiring properties. So
That's the solution, which is
listen, at this point, anything is on the table. Well, we don't want you all to take away that there's a solution developed because it's large, it's complicated, it's intricate, but just as Matt mentioned, the height of raising homes. Well, in order to do that in this village, the zoning code had to be reevaluated in that district to increase the building heights.
I'm so sorry, I'm really, I'm moved here 15 years ago and 4 times water came to my house. Every time 1 feet, but this time 3 feet. But I have to say that before Hurricane Ida, it was Hurricane Henri or Henry or whatever. So Chadwick at night was under 1 feet water, but it didn't come to the house. So definitely the drain is not about how much water. It's something is off, something is wrong, because Hurricane Henry, it wasn't what you said, like Hurricane Ida coming all like that. But when we came from city, I have witnessed my husband and a couple of neighbors, they came to fix the drains. They see maybe there leaves there, but was nothing, no garbage, nothing. My husband was on water 1 foot for Hurricane Henry. Chadwick was underwater. And as I said, 4 times water came to my house, 4 times from 2015. And this is a problem. I know there is a problem with the drains and everything. We just frustrated. We're like helpless. I went through personal problems in my life. I cannot, I'm telling you, I cannot go another water coming to my house. This one was horrible. It was never like this, but we had, in these 15 years, 4 times water coming to our house. I think when they build these houses. They should have built it higher, but they didn't. But the thing is, if I sell my house to somebody else, I scam them. They're gonna curse me like I'm cursing the old owner. I'm cursing like crazy, and she's my mom's friend. And everybody that they knew when they bought the houses, they had no idea what's going on. They were always hiding these to sell their houses. But now it's open, it's public. My conscience would never let me sell this house with a problem, because this will happen again. This will happen again, 4 times in 15 years. And when we came here, when the first time happened, our neighbor said, "Oh, this happened before." I have a neighbor that they're here, I think, 40 years. And he told me, "Oh, this happened numerous times before you come here." So this place, this road has a problem. I truly, genuinely, I'm opening my heart that this should be fixed. Really, it's not healthy. Um, but we have, like, a little rain, I go crazy. Like, I know a lot of people going, they keep coming, I can't even sell my house right now. I have 3 kids in college. I have more mortgage to pay than sell. Who's gonna buy my house now? I'm stuck with this house, but I love my house. I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. So this street has a problem. Maybe village has to buy and make a park if they cannot fix it. This is America. We're not living in Afghanistan or something. That 4 times water come to my son, and people tell me, "You're stupid that you didn't sell." I couldn't sell. I didn't want to sell. Why should I scam other people to selling these houses? They should be something should be done. I genuinely pouring my heart on behalf of a lot of people that affected by this, that you come up with the right solution.
Can I just say something? I'm 100% agreeing with her. I've been living in Chatham for the past 15 years, and every time it rains, my basement, everywhere it gets flooded. And for for the village or the town that they're getting our taxes and not doing anything, it's ridiculous. She's 100% right. And now, even if we want to sell our house, guess what? Nobody's gonna buy. And guess what? We are stuck in it. She's right.
People before us, they never
This
come
is
with-
crazy.
Okay.
Because
Well,
we
we're just
needed
gonna.
help with Ida, because it was such a we needed help from FEMA. We had to publicize it. Otherwise, honestly, like other people, like a snake, like a mouse, we would scam it, we would make it look good and sell it to poor people who buy it.
All right, we're going to go to the next question.
I just have a question for the engineer. Does the culvert that goes under Middle Neck Road, if that is not in the 10-year rainfall requirement, are they obligated to change it?
Obligated? No.
They don't have to. It's not a mandate, right?
I know.
Okay. If the lines in red don't meet the 10-year requirement, which is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Can't the water be run a different direction other than heading towards, where does it go now? It goes to Mill Pond?
Yeah. So
So those lines can be replaced to handle a 10-year rain event and go in a different direction, possibly to Manhasset Bay?
that was considered. The price tag was a little more, if I remember correctly, and also in getting a permit from New York State DEC for a new outfall, particularly of something of this magnitude, would not be likely from a water quality perspective. Yes, the most viable way, and you'd be fighting topography to get to Manhasset Bay. The grade is significantly higher between there and there, so your excavations would be much deeper. Your better bet would be try to find a solution where the water currently drains, upsizing the pipe capacity.
We're going to come right to you next, guys.
I think what we're all really trying to say to, everyone has PTSD from what happened. It was very, very traumatic for all of us. And, I think one by one, we're imploring that you help come up with the solution, because again, we're stuck with what happened with our houses. We're afraid with even a little alert that there's going to be rain. And the cutting the emotions out of it, it's just we're all here in front of you asking for your help, whatever you think is a sensible, some solution, so that we don't have to go through what we went through. I think again, everyone will say it was a very, very traumatic experience for all of us. We all have our own stories, and we all have like trauma literally from that night, and I know that you're here to help us, and hopefully we'll come up with a solution.
Uh, I just want to show you a video I took from the July 21st. It's not hurricane, just a normal rainy day. And you can see Chadwick Road was full of water on Chadwick Road. It's not hurricane, it's nothing but full of water. Yeah, full of water on Chadwick Road. Yeah.
Abraham, there's something I'd like to share with you. There's another attitude. So the reason I wanted to share this exhibit, the village has what's called a flood-prone area. And every lot that's highlighted there, which are the streets that we've been talking about tonight,
Oh, we get to it.
is in the flood-prone area. When the code was created, again, it went back to early 2000, which restricted basements, cellars, anything below grade in these areas. The other unique thing about some of the streets in this area, from a topography point of view and looking at your video, it's the bottom of the bowl. It's very flat in there. So it is the drain for what Matt referred to as the 100 acres upstream. So you have a flat area. It is essentially the low point, and you have that area that's in pink there has poor quality soils. That just means that when that rainwater hits the surface, it's not draining in the ground as if you had a property on the South Shore. I only bring this up because it's codified. It's a good measure. Any application doesn't solve any of your problems tonight, so don't take it that way. But any application that goes before the village is highly scrutinized in this area, both from soils and how water drains. So this goes along the line of what can be done in the future, through codes. This is one way, but I just wanted to point that out. And for those that did not know this, that it has been on the books for over 20 years, that this was a known area. It doesn't solve your problem, so please don't take
I
it.
think one of the things we mentioned last time, or maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago, was one, I'm not aware of any houses in this area that has dry wells, because the water plate is very high, I think about 3 feet down from what I've heard. So you can't really put dry wells. They don't have basements. So if there is sorry? I think 2 houses there have basements, right? Am I correct? How many houses have basements? I don't know. 2 or 3, I think. 2 or 3. Right, so there are 2 or 3, I think, on each end of Chatwick. When you come in the middle, also in Plymouth, when you come in the middle, as it becomes on the lower part, those areas don't have any basement. Or I don't think any of you guys have dry wells. Am I correct? You don't. So when it rains, the water from the roof just goes to the backyard or to the street. It stays on the roof until it drains down?
No, sorry, on the backyard.
Right. So that indicates that you don't have proper, obviously you don't have proper drainage. I mean, to go ahead and say that, somebody mentioned that we should condemn a few of the houses and do what they suggested, to have a huge pond. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I just don't think it's a practical idea. I think, as I mentioned before, and I have spoken to the board, and I know it may incur some cost to the homeowners, but to allow the homes to somehow give an incentive for homeowners to either raise the home or allow a different code for a higher, let's say instead of what is it, 30? We make it 30. It's maximum height is what in that area? 30? 38? No, it's not.
No.
Probably to the peak of the roof.
To the peak of the roof is, I think it's about 30. You can just check. We can add about 5 or 6 inches to it. I don't know in that area what the feet. What did I say?
Inches.
No, feet. So I think that would probably, that can possibly alleviate a lot of the problem and also enhance the value of the property. I think that's probably one of the easiest way of dealing with it. But also I know that what I was told that where all these thing gets drained into is a tideable area, right? There's a tide that affects it.
Yeah, so the water ultimately drains into Udall's Mill Pond, which is a tributary to Little Neck Bay, so that is tidally influenced. How far that tidal influence extends upstream, I don't know, but that would be something we'd have to assess.
I got a question. How about a pump station of some sort?
Pump station is viable, very expensive, a lot of maintenance, and requires some sort of a backup power system, such as a generator. Yeah, you know, when you need it most is when it's most likely to, when the power is most likely to go out. So every time we try to present a pump station as an alternative, stormwater pump station, the first thing we hear is, well, where are you going to put it? Do I want that generator in my neighbor's yacht, you know, next to my property? And no, I mean, they're fairly loud. I mean, they're just not something that people want to live with. Right. Yeah.
Can I ask on top of that, is there a way that you can shape the street so the water will flow a different direction down maybe the east shore side? Is that a possibility?
No, the topography actually goes up higher, so it would have to be piped in that direction. But if you pipe it that direction, we'd have to send it out into Manhasset Bay, and the likelihood of getting a permit to do that would be slim to none.
Okay. So I understand you guys are doing this assessment now, right? Do you have estimate how long the assessment is going to be and when can we see some sort of recommendation?
So we've done some preliminary evaluation right now. This is a very comprehensive study to come up with final solutions, and we are not at that point yet. So we're
Is
still trying to
there-
figure out what the parameters of the study need to be, and we're not even there yet.
At what point will we know how long it will take? I mean, like, I'm sure everybody's anxious to have some sort of recommendation that we could move forward to implement.
You guys are saying that we shouldn't like be so petrified that something like this is not happening in the next year or so. But you can't predict that,
No.
right? It hasn't happened in the last, like you said, for a long time. We shouldn't, by just natural standard of like, I guess topography, it's not gonna be happening.
What? We never said it's not going to happen. I don't think either of us said that.
No, meaning like.
They said it hasn't happened before.
No, this particular
Not
rain
this.
event was completely unprecedented. I'm not saying that's the only rain event that causes flooding. I'm saying this is the most severe that I think has been seen in Nassau County. I'm sure there are other systems that have caused flooding. Like I said, this pipe network probably has a capacity for a 1 or 2 year rain event. So you're going to get flooding every 1 or 2 years.
My question, I'm sorry. So my question is, you started this study in 2001, you said?
We did not start. A study was done in
A study
2001.
was done.
Yes.
And you pretty much came up with the same thing, not, you know, it wasn't really like up to par, let's say, with like a high volume of water. Am I correct?
Yeah, the pipes were identified as being under.
2001.
2001, yes.
Okay, so this is 2021, and nothing happened in between? Like nobody said, hey, maybe if we put bigger pipes,
No, they did.
we won't
They
have a
did
big
put
pipe.
bigger pipes. No, they did put a
Yeah,
bigger
but
pipe.
This is not a village issue.
And I'm just
Accusing the village of
Anytime they
being
come up
derelict.
with suggestion, but there is not enough money or there is not enough funding. So
Hold on one
I
second.
don't know if funding or the money where should they come because I think we are not paying taxes and there is nothing being done to our sewer system for past 20 years.
So I just want to share my story for a second. So here's my friend Debbie, and her house was destroyed, and I mean destroyed, by 4.5 feet of water from this storm. And I understand it was like a crazy storm, like we've never seen this before. We probably won't see it for like a long time. What shocks me listening to yours, very impressive presentation by the way, is that this was a possibility, obviously, because you have like this little storm, big storm, 10-year storm, like so everybody knew. I'm surprised that nobody said, let's not have even like a little storm like Henry or whoever else, like create some damage. I mean, we had to gut the house with no money. Like because there was no like emergency, like nobody has $100,000 sitting in the bank, like saying, hey, if we have a storm, we'll just like remodel. This has been like an actual nightmare. My husband and I like spent a whole month, a month and a half redesigning everything and making sure that even if there is water, nothing will happen to her. But but we can't with 3 babies until 4. Like it was just it boggles my mind that people do studies and everybody knows, and yet we're here.
But something was done after 2001 study. They did add, from what I was told, that they
did a tremendous job on the culvert.
Right.
In Nassau
Which is a county
No,
facility.
but they also
County,
added
yes.
in Chadwick, I think that whatever is in the middle of the road, that drainage system happened after 2001 study. Am I not correct?
I don't recall.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm not aware.
But I was told that the one that is in the middle of the road, the drench, was done in 2001, and they said that it actually helped significantly. So there was something done. I don't know if they changed the pipes, but something was done to actually increase.
There's no pipe under Chadwick, right?
The big drain.
There's a big drain, right. So that was, they did something. Again, I don't know if that was enough, but, and one thing that was mentioned also, you also have to take into consideration all these other utilities that are under the ground. I mean, you have the gas, the pipe, the electricity, maybe at something like the sewer, the water. And there's a certain distance that you have to be between each of these. And Jay, you're more familiar with this. To go ahead and rip off one and put a new one, it's either extremely costly or maybe even impossible. And put something next to it may be very close to another utility that is going to also make it impossible. So I don't know, and that's why they're here. And hopefully they can come up with some kind of an answer. But I think, again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to play one here, but I think it's easier still, I believe, to change the zoning and allow people to build higher. Is that going to help the current situation? Probably not, but I think it is going to significantly enhance the value of the homes if we can do that. And again, obviously, I would like to hear from the people in the Chadwick area and Plymouth area to see if that's a viable option before we start exercising the discussion or to start discussion before we exercising the option. Yes. If you can come, yeah. Oh. Yeah, maybe.
That's okay. I'm from Chadwick, 16 Chadwick. We collected some questions, and so I wanted to just talk about money a little bit.
Talk
right?
about money?
Money, right. So obviously raising home costs money, and I understand there's a lot of state and federal grants that's being discussed. Is the village pursuing any of those fundings?
This would be
Yeah.
individual homeowners.
So there are FEMA grants that are available for infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
Or hazard mitigation grants. So depending on what type of solution, possible solutions our H2M comes up with and that the board decides to implement, then we can apply for those grants and hopefully help offset the cost to the taxpayers by getting some of those grants. So yeah, those
Okay.
are definitely, any grant opportunities that are out there, we're going to try to pursue.
Okay.
But also for individuals, there are grants also,
For
FEMA grants.
FEMA,
But I
yes,
think
but the folks here will tell you it's minimal amount of grant that's given to
right.
us.
I was told that if you apply, I don't know if you want to, but there is a loan available for 1.5%,
Yes,
very low. Listen, Laura, it is what they're saying. So I'm not saying you should apply for it. You can.
Okay.
Right. Huh? Oh. Okay, Laura. But
So for the folks that have been
you got picked on.
Mayor, it's not 1.5 because they double it if they call you capable of getting another loan. So it's 3.1 something if you're capable of getting another loan.
Oh, but that's not what they mentioned. They said that's not what they said last time. They said when they came and gave a presentation last week, right? They
it's
said
only if you
1.5
cannot get loans
for
from
whoever
elsewhere.
qualifies.
Right.
Okay, I guess there's always a caveat for whoever qualifies.
Oh, just one second. Let's
Yes,
do one
let
at a
me
time.
just get one more question. Well, actually, two more questions now. So, folks were asking because we were impacted by the storm, is there a way that we could get reduced property tax?
Right. So I think one of the
during this
things you can
period?
do. Right. So, right. So you can't cut taxes. I wish it was that easy. If I could cut tax, I mean, we are not increasing taxes, but I think one of the things you guys can definitely do is to grieve your taxes, and I think that will be looked upon. And I think that's I don't know when the deadline for it is.
From February 1st to the third Tuesday in February, you can grieve your taxes.
Right. And I
Okay.
think that's what you should probably do. And not only with the village, I think I encourage you to do it also with the county.
Okay. All right, great. Thank
And
you.
yeah.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to ask. So, in terms of from now till we actually have a good solution, can we have village do regular cleaning of the drainage system? I hear last time that we do this periodically, but now during fall time, springtime, there's lots of leaf that, falling leaf on the ground. We
Right.
would.
So I spoke to Louis, the superintendent, before. There was something that happened, and he came. He actually does. He rents these huge vacuums and he puts it in these drains, and he sucks out all the garbage and the leaves. So it definitely helps. One thing I want to mention: if you guys see when some of the gardeners come in, I have seen some of them blow the leaves into these areas. So please stop them because I have seen them. I have stopped them personally, not in that area because I don't see them. But they do that because they can get significant amount of the leaves just shoved into the drain. So if you do see them, please tell them not to.
Okay.
As far as Louis going around, he does that. I've seen him do that. We actually pay for the car for the truck that comes in. So yes, we will mention that they should do it again.
Anybody else? Oh, okay, let me get, I don't think she spoke. Hi.
In Plymouth, one of those drainage, like today I saw it was full of leaves.
Right.
Full of leaves. I think it's across from me to the right. Across from 53 to the right.
Right.
I'll write it down.
Right.
Anybody could always call the office anytime and just speak
Right.
to us, and we'll
So
let
I
Louis
don't know where you are. I don't know where you live, but Plymouth is very interesting. One side of one side of Plymouth is the village. The other side is the town.
It's the village side because it's to the right. 53 across to the right.
So if you know the number, number of the house that this drain is in front, let us know and then we'll send somebody. I just want to make sure.
You mentioned dry wells, and I guess it's a question for you guys. Why aren't dry wells an option in this area?
Because of the poor soils. So dry wells need sandy material to So once they fill up, they have to drain. So if in the clay soils that you have here, they'd fill up once and they'd never drain.
Okay.
And not only that, you also have to realize, I think the water plate is so high, when you start digging, you're just gonna hit the water. And it just, you have you have a pool in the backyard.
Yeah, the reason for the high water is that the clay doesn't allow the water to penetrate, so what you have is perched water. That's why it's shallow.
I'm sorry, when you mention the clay soil, do you mean swamp?
No.
No. Clay.
So it's
actually,
like-
it's a very fine material, tends to stick together. It holds the water like a sponge and becomes impenetrable.
But this is not like a swamp area or something?
No.
Anybody else?
Okay, I wanted to thank all you guys for coming, and I want to thank H2M for giving us the presentation. I know that they're going to continue working to find more information from Nassau County and what they've done. And we're going to continue looking into different ways of solving the problem. But again, I would like to still hear from the community on that. I would call that the community on Chatwick and Plymouth, what their thoughts are about changing the zoning to allow a higher building, so they can have the first floor, at least the first 5-6 feet, to be free so it does not get flooded again. All right. Thank you, everybody.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
My husband is very
Oh.
shy.
This houses is too old to raise them. How you can raise those houses is impossible. So we gotta knock it down and build a new one. Costly.
I hear you, but you have to realize I can't change the topography, nor can I change the soil, or the fact that the Chatwick happens to be at the bottom of 2 hills. I don't think there's much we can do. I mean, all the options are discussed, and they're going to look for other options that I can't come up with. I mean, they're professionals, and this is what they do for a living. This is not what I do for a living, and I know that Jay has a lot of familiarity with these things, and we can throw ideas out there, but it has to be an idea that is viable and realistic. You cannot, I understand that raising homes are expensive. I know some of the homes can be raised, some of them can't be if they have a basement. But if you have to look at all options. This is one of the options, and the reason I believe it's probably a viable option is because it can actually increase the value of your property. So even if you can't build it yourself, there may be someone who's willing to buy the property knowing that they can build something that is going to be very valuable to them, and then you can use that money to buy something somewhere else. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but I'm just saying that's an option that you may have if we change the zoning. But I would like to hear from you guys before we start exercising that option.
I don't think giving the area that option hurts anybody.
Well, it's not the matter of hurting anybody. We don't want to go through the whole exercise if it's not going to help anybody.
No, but the future value of all the lands is better if the next owner can build higher. It's not
Right.
So the pursuit, I don't think doesn't hurt.
Right. Okay.
We can't solve all problems. We can't solve all the problems. It's topography.
And that tomorrow they're going to solve it. They can't. Our problem is not a fast issue to solve.
So, dear Mayor, I'm at 49 Plymouth, because I have like 6 children, so I cannot afford to buy a big house in Kings Point. So right now, I'm planning designing my house at the 2nd floor. But right now, we also facing the problem, the basement, because the window is too close to the floor. This time, we get all the water from the windows, in the basement window. If, change the zoning code will be benefit, but the problem is too cost. If I knock down my house, so it takes like 1 million
Right.
to raise the floor level, right? So like to me, so then it's still not helpful.
You
So
see, I hear everybody's frustration.
Yeah.
But again, I wish there was a way that I could just snap my fingers and the problems would go away. I mean, H2M is looking into all the options. But again, the options have to be viable and realistic. If something's going to cost $30 million, it's not going to happen. And if something's going to take years, it doesn't make sense. Topography is not going to change. The soil is not going to change. Can we maybe increase the width of the pipes that we have a little bit or a lot of bit? Maybe, but then we don't know what's at the end, and I don't, you can increase it, but if it's going to bottleneck at one point, it's still not going to help. So the only, and I hear you, and the reason I'm mentioning this again and again is if you can increase the value of your home, even if you're not going to build it, you may be able to sell it to someone who's willing to do that because they're going to actually benefit after they're building it. So the value, you see, if I can increase the value of your property by changing the zoning, that is going to help you. Regardless of what's going to happen, that is going to help you. So I'm assuming, and people here can correct me if I'm wrong, that by just changing the zone and allowing you to build higher, maybe 5-6 feet, and say that the first 4-5-6 feet you cannot have a living space, that is going to save your problem, because then you say, listen, you know what? This place is never going to get flooded again. Even if the water comes in, the water goes in 2-3 feet high, but it's not going to come to your house. It's just going to run down, and it's going to dissipate. Is it going to help you immediately? No, it doesn't. Is it going to help your home? Probably doesn't, or anybody else who's here. But I think what it does, it's going to increase the value of your home. So if you do decide to sell it to someone who's buying it and building it to something that is much larger and more expensive, you may be able to do that.
So usually how long takes to change the zoning for the?
Changing the zoning does not, I don't think it takes that long. It's probably the fastest way of curing the issue, or not curing the issue, but alleviating the problem that we have in a way. But I don't think that takes much to do.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. David.
David Slenziger, 15 Beach Road. In the village of Freeport, where I grew up, many, many dozens of homeowners have raised their houses since Sandy.
Right.
And the village did make changes and so on. So what I'm thinking is maybe our clerks could call the village of Freeport and basically ask them how many houses have done that in this sort of South Long Beach, South Ocean, Miller Avenue, Woodcliffe Avenue area in the last 9 years to get the numbers. It looks a little weird, but what they do is they simply build a new foundation and then they raise the house up. Now, not every house on the block is done. Sometimes it looks a little awkward, but it's sure as hell never going to flood again. But I don't know what the stats are, but I know the village of Freeport will have them for you. And I know it's not like 2 houses, it's dozens have done that in the last 9 years. So get the stats and also ask what they did.
City of Long Beach.
Same thing.
Hundreds of houses.
Same thing. So I urge you to do that just to get some stats, and the same is true for H2M. To ask City of Long Beach and ask the village of Freeport. There are others on the South Shore, but they're not necessarily villages that have done it. It doesn't cure Great South Bay is still there, but it does at least give some amelioration to the homeowners. Also, the thing to ask, and then again, maybe call some realtors in Freeport, is ask them in terms of the resale on the house. The mayor has suggested, well, if someone sells the house, what's the benefit? You see what I'm saying? Ask them if someone has a house, say, on South Long Beach Avenue in Freeport, and then they've raised it, what has happened to the property when it gets sold? Some realtors there will be able to give you an idea. That might be something to do a comparable analysis from. That's, I think, a hopeful, constructive suggestion here.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? You? Okay. You got your courage together?
In 2008, when we had the last water coming to our houses, I came, I talked to Mayor, it was Ralph, I can't remember his last name.
Kreisman.
And he told me that they are changing the pipe. It's 12 years, it hasn't been finished.
I don't think.
No.
It's 12
The
years,
coun-
it
no, no.
hasn't been finished.
Sir?
How long? Yes.
Sir, the pipe he was referring to was the pipe at the intersection of Piccadilly and Middle Neck. The county did replace that pipe. They put a massive new pipe in it, okay? But the problem is that a third of the country got flooded by this storm, okay? It was an unprecedented amount of water. Now, I know that we have other smaller storms that are flooding Chadwick, so there are issues that we could try to alleviate. But another storm like Ida, I don't know what we could do to prevent flooding from that type of storm, where the streets of New York City, the subways, the tunnels, the New Jersey, where people in 17 states got flooded and lost property. I mean, sometimes nature is just too much.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not saying
that
anything
culvert,
against it. That pipe is not being finished.
No, no.
You guys are still working in
No,
Piccadilly
no,
on
no.
those piping systems.
What he's saying is the pipe that the previous mayor mentioned
Yes.
was not these pipes that these gentlemen showed on the map. It's a pipe it's a culvert that goes under Middle Neck Road to the other side. They changed that.
Right, so we want to mention that the villages drains into that.
Right. So what happens, the everything drains, unfortunately, to Chadwick and Plymouth, and then from Plymouth it goes through those channels and goes to south of Piccadilly, from where it goes through that culvert under Middle Neck Road, which county did change and put a bigger pipe, and then from there it goes to the pond. Now, I don't know if, again, I don't know if anyone here knows yet, if changing the pipes are even going to help the situation. Because we all like to think, put bigger pipes and the water is going to go. Imagine you put bigger pipes and everything's going to go and stops by one point.
Imagine
it just
if
becomes
we
a
put
bottleneck.
4 lanes on Middle Neck Road each side. When you get to Cedar, it goes down to 1 lane.
Right.
Okay? So you could put 4 lanes on Middle Neck Road, and you could put hundreds of cars going down there with no problem. But when they get to Cedar, it's 1 lane.
And it's all backed
That's
up.
the problem, is that you could only make the system big enough for what is at the end of the system.
So you're answering your own question. If it's only 1 lane going, so why don't we make another lanes that it goes to Cedar?
Because at the end
it all ends up at the
at the end it ends up into a pond. Now, if what you do is going to be above it's going to be below the high tide, right? So imagine it comes in, the tide is here at the low tide, the pipe is here. Now, if you make the pipe bigger and the high tide comes up, then the water is going to go in. There's so much you can do. I don't know. Am I incorrect in saying?
Yes, I mean, we don't know if that will or
Right.
won't. It's a possibility. It's something that needs to
Right.
be evaluated as part of the
So
comprehensive.
this is what they're looking
study.
in. So it doesn't necessarily mean by us increasing the number of pipes, we're going to actually be able to drain better. If at the end there's something stopping us, then it doesn't make any difference.
But we're looking into it.
We're looking
asking
into
them
all
to
the
see what
options.
can be done, if anything.
Again,
But
the only option we have at this point, and I'm sure hopefully they're going to come up with more options, but the only option we have at this point that we can exercise is to change the code. That's the only thing we can offer at this time. Now, if they come up tomorrow and say, listen, if we do X, Y, and Z, this is going to be the price tag, this is how much more we can drain, we have to see, is it worth going through that if it's going to just add 1 inch of rain in 24 hours, or it's not worth doing it. So there's so many things they need to look at. Can you increase the amount of water drained significantly, or not really?
Yeah,
So
you know exactly as you looking at your own side that how much you gotta spend. You gotta look at our side.
No, he's not
If
understanding.
in a 6 month this happened
No.
again, we
No.
have to go through
You
the
don't
whole
under-
thing
but you-
again.
I don't think you're understanding what he's saying.
No.
Saying we could
You-
spend that much
you
money.
guys saying how much money is gonna cost
No,
us to
no,
do it.
no,
You're not.
no.
You're,
That's
no.
what exactly.
No, that's
I
not
need-
what we
We
said.
need you to listen, okay?
I said, I'm going to repeat it again. You see, if I go ahead and let's say we spend $5 million and I can't increase, let's say we can put the pipes, it's not going to interfere with the water pipe, the gas pipe, the electricity pipe, the sewer, and everything is going to be okay. Let's say on that narrow road, we can have all these things fit in. We can increase the pipe. And then it goes and it gets bottleneck at one place because that area cannot be increased anymore for whatever reason, right? Then what's the point of spending that much money if it's going to just save us 1 inch of rain a day?
Do you understand the terminus of where the water goes is not in our village? So where the bottleneck happens is not in our village. So our pipes are going, and at some point it leaves our village. It goes through other villages and unincorporated areas. So we don't have control to make the entire system all the way down to Udall's Pond. So if you put 6 straws going into one straw, it's only going to drain one straw. So it's not how much money you throw at it. It's is it going to work?
So that's what they're going to study. Listen, we are willing to hear all options. I'm not closing doors to any options. But I don't, for now, the only option that so far is viable is what we mentioned. Now, if they come in 2 weeks or a month and say, hey, you know what? This is what we can do, and this is the price tag, then we can take a look at it. But until then, there's nothing that we can give you. They're doing this study.
But hopefully they're gonna do it fast. You know, we don't need to stay another 10 years to see
Unfortunately,
what's
right.
gonna
And
happen.
the
That's
study,
the whole problem.
right. So nothing gets done without a proper study. They have to do the proper study. They have to look at the topography. They have to look at the flow rate. They have to see what the pitch is. Again, I'm not an engineer, but this is so. You can't go up the hill, you have to go down the hill all the times, and if you change it a little bit in order to get more water, you're going to decrease the drainage. There's so many things involved, and I don't know anything. But I know enough to know that it's not a 1, 2, 3 kind of a thing. You're not changing the drain in your home, you're changing the drains for the entire 100-acre of land. You know, we can't just come up with unfortunately, we can't just come up with it. I can't, but we hired them and we'll see what they can do.
By the way, it's not weeks, it's going to be months. Just I want to temper everyone's expectations. This is not something we are going to be turning out an answer in the next few weeks. There's a comprehensive evaluation that needs to be done of the 100 acres, plus the surrounding areas that drain into the culvert under Middle Neck Road and beyond. This is a lengthy study to find a solution.
Just follow up on what you say about the 4 lanes turning into 1 lane. Are we going to have your solution potentially look into that 1 lane expansion as well, so we could work with other villages to expand that?
Well,
Or
first
this
we have
is just
right. So
limited
what
to
I
us?
think what's going to happen is they're going to look to see what is the limiting factor.
Including that 1 lane.
Right, there's some limiting factors that we can possibly change or suggest to other towns or villages or county to change. And there's some that has to do with God. I mean, listen, if the tide comes up and the water backflows, there's nothing we can do. That's a rate limiting factor.
Right. We
Right.
understand the extraneous circumstance here, but we want to have that 10-year storm that you're talking about guaranteed that's safe for us. And then, who knows if we stay here 20
I don't
years,
know.
we see
Unfortunately,
it
I don't know if I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if we can guarantee a 10-year storm. They're going to look into it and see what we can do.
But we should aim to at least
Right. That's what
toward
they're
that.
right. That's what they're looking to.
So in terms of next step, I wanted to make sure everybody's coming back and knowing when to expect an answer from the study. So we're talking about month. What is realistic for us to regroup?
Mhm.
And we at one point suggested for us to have some sort of like a group, community type of
Is there a depth at which you get
um,
past the clay?
committee where
some of the members from the community could come join and hear some of the preliminary study results, not just to find out as like a big show at the end of the study. Is that something that could be, I'm sure you do preliminary review and
Right. So
suggestions
when
and
they have more information, that let us know. So what I can do, I know that you were in touch with Wendy. So I think you can, when we have more information, he's going to send a message to Wendy, and she can get in touch with you guys, and then send a message, and then we'll say, let's say we're going to have another meeting on, I don't know, in February 1st to just discuss what they have come up with. Again, I don't think they're going to have a final answer, but if they do sooner, listen, I will definitely call you.
So will we be able to now, from now to February, each time we meet, give a update on where we are? So at least, as a community, we know that we're continuing to
If
work on it
we
and
can
there's
have-
some progress, what kind of activity we're happening.
Right. So I believe H2M can, if you guys have any information that is worthy of discussion.
We don't need the final solution, but if you
Right.
can tell me,
If
we
there's any
studied the
update, again.
2014 report, we did the comparison, we measured this, we had a tape on this, like at least we know that there are things that are happening.
Yeah, Mayor, I think step one is going to be that they're going to draft a proposal. In order to draft the proposal, they have to understand the scope of services. In order to understand the scope of services, there's some preliminary work that they're going to have to do. But the next step for the village will be to receive their proposal and vote on retaining them to go forward. But you really can't do that till you know what it is they're proposing to even study. Gentlemen, have I misunderstood?
No,
or-
that's exactly correct.
Right.
So you don't want to work for free?
That was last year.
Right.
And that's the part that doesn't take months and months to do, right? So
Ho-
hopefully
hopefully
next
not.
month when we come back, we could hear that that's done and there's some progress, yeah.
Yeah, just to answer the question, when we were both involved in communities with the governor's office, and part of that process was stepping through the project with the community. So we're used to that. That's part of what we do. Because as much as I heard you say tonight, I just took the note about the 2008 storm, and one of my curiosities I was researching today is trying to figure out what those storm events have been over the last 20 years, the ones that have flooded your properties, because we can go back and look at historical data to understand what was that event. So we like being engaged with the community. It's something that we're accustomed to doing. So.
Last question. Is there any way town of Rochester Village, Greater, can contact fundraising, FEMA, explain the situation to help us raise the house? Because seriously, we cannot afford it right now. And the amount of the money they gave us for the
Kevin
houses
Paul's
was
Bill Beck, Raising Homes.
the spending we are doing right now, the amount they gave is really hard.
I heard somebody received a check for $25.
Somebody put, but is it possible that
So, I
the
think-
Senator Tom Sarsi,
Hold on one second.
I mean, Anna Kaplan, all of you, come on and go get the funds for us to raise our houses.
I'm gonna let
Because definitely this will happen again. I wish I had money. I would honestly would just sell and go. But we
Right.
need funds to do these things. I mean, this is America. Since I came, I'm working, I pay my taxes. And we need help from the government, at least, because I heard FEMA help people with Hurricane Sandy to raise their houses. I don't know why they're not looking into our house, because our house definitely needs to get raised.
Yeah, Mayor, obviously the government she's talking about in this particular case is the federal government, and I'm sure that you would be supportive of the U.S. senators and local congressmen to provide as much assistance as they can possibly provide.
Right. I think this is, again, I don't know what the local state senators can do, but I did discuss it with Congressman Swazi was there and he came to visit. I think he's the one that we can really try to push and see if he can get. Again, he came and unfortunately we got not so much of FEMA assistance, but I think if we start discussing, and I don't know what happened in other villages that the feds came to help, did it happen after the village passed changed the code to allow them to raise, or did it happen before? I don't know.
I certainly don't know in every case, but generally speaking, the there's two different parts to this process. One is for the village to apply for funds for additional expenses that it incurs when there is a disaster that has been declared by FEMA, and the other is for the individual homeowners to apply for assistance. And for that second track, the village can offer political support, but it really does not have a direct role. The homeowner has to be approaching FEMA with its application for assistance, and all the village can really do at that point is lend, as I said, its political support to the congressmen and senators to encourage FEMA to provide assistance.
No, but with that said, I would like to know what happened in other villages that they raised the homes. During Sandy, did the local government change the code allowing them to raise, and then they applied for FEMA grant, or they got FEMA grant? Because I don't know if FEMA is going to give them a grant if they can't raise the home.
You know, my recollection is that one of the things the federal government did was lower the price of flood insurance if the area was already in a flood zone, so that if you raised your home, there was a substantial reduction in the cost of the flood insurance. But I don't think this is an area that's been designated as a flood zone. Has it been, Mike?
That's correct. We checked today. It's not.
It's not. So that's a problem right there. It's not a designated flood zone.
I think a lot of times through Congress, they passed the laws that govern like the assistance for those, individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Question. Is it possible that the village can apply for FEMA for improvements on the infrastructure, not if, but when H2M comes up with a solution to modify this?
Yes, I believe, Mayor, you indicated that that was a likely course of action. But FEMA, you can't go to FEMA and say, could you please give us money? What you have to do is go to FEMA and say, here is the specific thing, here's the problem, here's the proposed solution, here's what we want to build, here's what it's going to cost. Now can we have a grant to help us do it?
Because what happens is any proposal that they come up with, whether it's replacing the pipe or anything else, it's costly. It's like Mayor Brown said, it's going to be down the street, it's going to be a larger pipe, it's going to be dewatering going on, there's a lot of excavation, a lot of maintenance of traffic, there's a whole bunch of stuff involved. You need, step one is, what are we going to do? And then step two is, what it's going to cost? And then you can go, because after Sandy happened, I worked on the South Shore a lot with a lot of mitigation work that happened down there, and it was being proactive for the next possible storm versus just reactively fixing what's there.
Right, but you have to have a proposed solution in order to go to FEMA to get that grant money.
Yes, and this is phase one.
Thank you.
Since it happened so many times to you, you can go to them and say, listen, year 15, this is what happens. Year 18, this happened. 20, go with your history. Show them, like, whatever, your insurance claims and all that stuff. And the ratio, like, FEMA money to you guys to help versus, being proactive and, like, trying to help with the next storm. I think somebody has to look at that too. And you can make that pointed out. Just take a look at what you're, like, dispersing to us, for the past, like, 5 storms. Is it cost effective or probably not?
Okay.
Okay, we gotta move on.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next case. But again, I want to thank H2M for coming, all of you guys for coming. I'm sure this is a work in progress. I hope we can get to some solution that everyone's happy with. And I ask everyone to think about the suggestion I made. And if you guys are interested, we're going to definitely take that into consideration about changing the zoning and allowing the higher buildings, not buildings, higher houses. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Next one, let's do New Visit 3 Baker Hill. We're going to do the curb application.
3 Baker Hill.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the gentleman is here on that or not.
That's him.
Ah.
Yes, Abraham.
Yeah, I called him to come in. 3 Baker is not in? Yeah. No, that guy ran. Hello.
Hi, good evening. I didn't expect to come, but I didn't prepare much, so everything's going to be off the top of my head. I live at 3 Baker Hill Road. The name is Carl Abraham. And it goes back, the history of this house goes back to 1927 when it was first built. It was built by the builder of most of the homes in this area. When my parents, when we were forced out of the Bronx bed area also, and we came to Great Neck in 1951, my parents purchased it from the representative to the UN from China. And we lived there ever since. And in 1970, when I finished with most of my schooling, I purchased the residence from my parents, and I supported them until they were gone. I bought something in Florida for them and helped them out. Over the years, prior to 1970, we experienced a lot of flooding on Baker Hill Road. Actually, it came in from Berkshire Road from Croydon, came down a hill, and then and we didn't need an extreme rain. We just needed a lot of rain, and it was like rivers coming down Berkshire Road and onto our property. I'll just may I give you
if
these
you don't mind,
photographs?
I'm just going to interrupt, and I'm just going to try to summarize it, so to bring them up to, because I read a lot. If I'm missing anything, please just let me know. So, what happened after the flood? Obviously, the house 3 Baker is grandfathered or was grandfathered in having a wider curb cut and also a wider driveway. What happened after this, because there was some damage and there was some flooding in the house, and the driveway has settled a little bit, Dr. Abraham decided to fix it and raise it to a point that it doesn't cause any more flooding. Now, the question is that now that they're fixing it, because they're fixing it according to what I've heard, it's possible to lose your grandfathering because now you're fixing something. My question to the council is, if a house is existing not conforming and a tree falls on it and loses a significant part of the house, and now they have to fix the house, is the code telling us that we need to cut that part of the house and become now conforming with the code, or the grandfathering is going to continue? I know that if we go ahead and knock down the house completely and build a new house, then everything has to come to conformance. But if we are just fixing something that broke, is it right, and is it what the code states, that we need to go ahead and go back to what the code says just by us repairing the sidewalk?
Unfortunately, Mayor, I was not aware of the background of the grandfathering issue, but merely that there was an application to have a driveway wider than the permitted 18 feet. So I can't answer your question exactly for this particular driveway without knowing more about its history.
Well,
Your code,
I can answer that.
your code, like most codes, provides for a percentage of damage. I forget whether you're set at 50%. I think in my head it's 50%, but I'd have to double check that if the damage is more than X percent, and I think it's 50 in Great Neck's case, then if the damage exceeds that, then it's just like building a new house. You have to comply with the code. And if it's less than that, you're able to repair it and still retain your grandfathering privileges. So what I'd have to do is just first determine whether this particular driveway fits within the definition of grandfathering, and second, whether the degree of damage exceeds the permitted percentage that's in your code.
Right. So the other question is, when we discussing driveway, are we discussing driveway as an accessory to the house or independent
Well,
to the house?
that's the next question I would have to look at, because I don't know that it's going to qualify as a structure. It's really just an accessory to the house.
And if it's an accessory to the house, thus it must be.
These
that
are
it's part of
these
the
are
house.
all answers that I can get you, but I simply wasn't prepared to answer
Okay.
them tonight.
So I think what we're doing, and again, Carl, I don't know if going through the history of what happened and who owned
Well,
the
what
house
happened over the years is there was the driveway settled the
No,
wrong
that
way.
we understand.
We
The-
know
the,
that.
the
Yeah.
question is this: my understanding is, and I'm not trying to advocate for you or
Yes,
against you.
right.
I think what I'm trying to say is, to me, it doesn't make sense that if someone fixes any part of the structure, unless you do 50% of the entire structure, including the home, the driveway, the backyard, whatever that is the structure of the home. I don't think you can consider the driveway to be an independent structure, because we don't allow anybody to have a driveway without a house.
Without a house, exactly,
So
sir.
it
Right.
doesn't make sense. So if the driveway is part of the house, and even if the code indicates that you have to have more than 50% of the house or the structure remodeled or fixed, that's the only time that I believe you should go back to the 18 feet that is allowed by the code today. If you're not doing that and you're just fixing the driveway that you have,
Yes,
no
that's
matter
all
how
we're
what
doing.
it was, it could be 36 feet wide, but it existed and it was conforming according to the code at one point in the history, and that's when it was built. I don't think the code today must apply unless you go ahead and do a significant change in the entire structure, including your house. The driveway itself should not be.
Again, Mayor, this is an answerable question. I can have an answer probably tomorrow. I simply wasn't prepared to address
All
the grandfathering issue this evening.
I do want to point out that the dimensions have not changed by even an inch.
Right. So
All
I think
we
that
did
is
and,
clear.
and this is a small fraction. We did nothing else other than that in a small fraction of the property.
To me, I think the code must allow you to fix that, but again, I'm not the
Well,
code.
Again,
just-
I have not reviewed the entire code, but it has just been pointed out to me that section 485-25 provides as follows, quote, "All repair or replacement of existing sidewalks, curbs, or gutters or driveways shall conform to the regulations hereby established for new construction," close quote. Now, I can examine more of the code and look into that, and whether or not this makes sense is a different question than whether it is the law. But that,
All construction, does it include repair?
it says all repair
Okay.
as well.
It
It's up on
doesn't
the
men-
screen right now.
Right, I know, but it doesn't mention being grandfathered in something.
Well,
Yeah,
it says
but-
all repair has to conform to new construction rules. But again, let me address this tomorrow, and then I will get back to you, and we'll be able to share the response with Dr. Abraham.
Okay? To me.
And
to me,
even
something
even
doesn't-
if that should be the case, that doesn't mean that there isn't a remedy also even just for a variance from the code, which can be granted by the ZBA.
Yeah, except that it costs, I already spent $18,000 to redo everything, including the sidewalks. I repaired the sidewalks that aren't even my property. But the fact is that going through the zoning board will cost several more $1,000s.
Then let me not say no tonight. Let me do the research and get back to the board tomorrow with an answer. But
I
I
do
don't write them, I
appreciate
only
that.
read them. But I certainly getting the impression that I should read them with a sympathetic eye.
Okay.
I'll give you my hanky too. I'm serious. This is, the reason we're doing all this is that we decided to sell our residence in Florida and live here 12 months a year. We decided to stay here and forever, whatever days we have left, and we enjoy what we have here. So that's why we're just improving what we have done with the driveway. And let me point something else out. I've been able to solve problems around the house because we've got the flooding in every part of our house, not just where the driveway goes into the garage. So I was able to raise the plantings around the house by a couple of feet, and that worked. And then I did cement work just bordering the house and raised the area of the cement surrounding the house 4 to 5 inches, and that has helped. And the only thing left was the driveway. So I do appreciate your consideration very much, and it's meaningful to my wife and myself. So I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Are you building a pickleball court on your driveway?
No, I was told that we're having pickleballs. The Shabbat is putting in pickleball court. And
Right.
they did some beautiful work there, and it's going to be all indoors.
I know, but we can play your place on Sunday morning.
No, not with you.
Where is that?
No,
gonna be? Where is that, Dr. Abrams?
Chabad. JCC.
What is it?
JCC.
Oh, Chabad.
The Chabad.
Okay.
The Chabad, where the old tennis courts were.
Got it.
All right. This is
Kosher
terrific.
pickleball courts.
All right.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Kosher pickleball is it's a half-size tennis court, and you use a different kind of paddle and
Like a beach pad
and a dead ball.
and a wiffle ball.
Okay.
Dill
We
pickleball.
played Allenwood tennis courts.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, moving on.
Minutes.
26 Chadwick.
No, what? No.
Minutes.
Minutes.
Minutes, please.
You don't have to be here, do they?
They didn't submit an
Oh, they
application.
submit.
We told them, we left the placeholder, they never came. Minutes of October 5th meeting.
It's not, it came off the agenda. I'm looking at Novus.
No, it was never published
Okay.
to the public.
Well, it's on the Novus. So.
Right, but it's not published to the
Okay.
public.
Yeah. That's Mike Fuller's house. They wanted a pod, but they didn't put the application. Okay, I'll move the minutes.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. It's passed
Aye.
unanimous. The next item is the abstract for this Friday.
So, what is Blue Sky Group for temporary?
Oh, so it's a house that they, I'm not sure the exact address, but this is the corporation that they put the bond to get a temporary certificate of occupancy. And now that they have complied with all the requirements and they have done all the permits and all the inspections, now they're coming for a, not temporary certificate of, like they're just coming for a certificate of CO, right?
Oh, because I
And-
didn't see an address. It's
I do not, I can email you tomorrow the exact address.
okay. So that was that. I noticed that we were paying for the yearly renewal for GoDaddy, and I noticed isn't there an option where you could pay for more than 1 year, like to do a 2 or 3 year renewal?
So they used to offer such an option that if you pay for more, you will get like some sort of a discount.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference anymore if you get 1 year or 5 year or 2 years, it's the same price.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned that we shouldn't lose, someone shouldn't try to,
Sure, next time it comes up
No,
for
I mean,
renewal,
I'm just,
I'll look into
yeah,
it.
I'm just curious, and also if we would pursue the .gov, you know, option. I mean, we would still reserve those other ones just because.
.gov, the issue with the .gov is we can't have any more like Great Neck Village. We have to have like Great Neck Village
Dot
dash.
New York.
No, you can't have dot. It has to be like dash New York or dash Long Island, something like that. If
Oh, there's a dash?
well, you have to indicate which area it's located.
I thought isn't that Great Neck Village dot New York dot gov?
No, you can't get dot New York dot gov. You could have, for example, Great Neck dash Long Island or Great Neck dash New York dot gov. You
So
have to
there's gotta be a dash
identify
there somewhere.
where it's located.
Right.
Unless we are unique, which we are not
No,
unique.
but
There
other
is another
villages
village.
have dot New York dot gov.
I haven't seen any villages that
Okay,
they have.
I'll get you.
I know the state agencies they have dot New York,
Uh-huh.
but villages I'm not sure if they have dot New York dot gov.
Okay, there was something called Long Island Sanitation. It was for leaching parts. What is that?
The sanitation truck is from a company called Leach.
Oh, okay.
So leach truck leach
Oh, okay, so
part
it's referring
means for
to
the parts for the garbage truck.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So the fee that we pay for the Water Authority of Great Neck for the fire hydrants.
Went up.
Yeah, that seemed like, I mean, how often do we pay?
Quarterly.
So 32,000 was just for 1 quarter?
It was for 1 quarter. They added 11 more hydrants.
Uh-huh.
I was this afternoon actually, as I was coming back to Village Hall, I was thinking to myself, I should ask them where are they located. I want to make sure that they are actually charging correct village.
Yeah, because
I don't see 11 new.
They put, for example, at the end of Apple Tree Lane, they
That's
put
a dead end, right?
that's a dead end. So they placed it on almost every single dead end in the village. So I just want to make sure that all the locations that they're going to give me are actually in the village.
Okay.
This was some thought that came to me this afternoon.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And it's $48, I believe, per month per hydrant. So if you take 132 times 48.
232.
What?
There were 232.
232,
yeah.
not 132.
Yeah.
232 times 40, whatever it is,
47,
times 3 months,
right.
it comes up to $32,000.
Wow.
Why so much? What are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, do they use that much water? I guess that's my question.
No, it's just to rent one fire hydrant.
That's where they're making their money.
I don't know. I don't work.
I think they make their money in a lot of places.
What?
They
You know,
make their money in a lot of places.
They increased the price of water.
Yes.
By 15%.
Uh-huh.
They raised actually by 10%. They raised it from 120 to 132 per quarter, and now they raise it even further.
They're doing some massive construction on Watermill Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing something that's shaking the entire block. Whatever they're doing,
Oh, really?
pounding away.
Yeah.
The whole landscape is changing.
Right, they're looking for oil.
Yeah.
And last thing,
Great Neck Water and Oil District.
As I recall, though, I think their rates are regulated.
They have to apply with the
Right,
state to
state.
increase the rate,
Correct.
yes.
Oh, is that right?
And there's a public hearing to go through, and usually they get their way anyway.
Who's our
Yes.
representative on the Water Authority?
Jay Johannes. Johannes, yeah. And I know on the last abstract you mentioned something about petty cash, so this is just an addendum to that? Is that?
No, this is the exact amount that we
Oh, the
need
exact amount.
to make
Okay.
it whole.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to accept the abstract.
And
What? It was a small amount.
It was 180 something.
162.
Right.
Second.
It's
second.
well, it was already second.
Okay.
like third.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh, aye.
Aye. Public comment?
Public comment. Yes.
David.
David Lenziger, 15 Beach Road. I had some questions for the building superintendent, but if he's not here, they'll have to wait. I do have a question for our village treasurer. Whatever happened to our Moody's rating? have you supplied the info that they requested? And have they restored our credit rating?
The only item that is outstanding for the audit is what is called GASB 68, which is basically has to do with pension plans. The original pension plan, it has to go through some sort of actuary process. That means we put in how many people are, for example, working for the village now, and the years of service, and based on the information we give them, they give us a estimate of when it's going to, how much it's going to cost the village to give them pension. Okay? There is a website that we used to use to get all this information. We have contacted them a couple times. They keep sending it to the wrong email to the village. We're trying to get that access back to that website so we can complete that report. That is the last thing that we could submit to the auditor so we can issue the audit report. And once we get the audit report, we can submit it to Moody's to regain our rating.
Well, this is going on for months and months. So
That is
do you
correct.
have an idea how much longer it's going to take?
We were in contact with the auditors Monday, which was yesterday, and we contacted the GASB system yesterday and today. We are still in the process of getting it. As soon as we have it, we'll send it over to get it.
Okay, because I've been thinking, this is going on for a very long time.
It is correct. It has been going on for a while, yes. We're trying our best to get it resolved as fast as we can.
Okay, and speaking of funds, I'm wondering if we have any better, there were supposed to be some things now about New Village Hall on an earlier agenda, and I noticed they weren't discussed tonight. Do we have an idea of where things stand in terms of bids and what the total cost is going to be, and what kind of budgeting we have for the total cost of this project?
So they're still doing the initial part. It hasn't reached a level of sending it out for bid yet. So the moment we have that, we'll let you know. But it's not a quick thing to do. They have to do a lot of studies. You have to hire engineers. There is structural engineer that we need to have, the mechanical engineer, civil engineer, sound engineer, all that other stuff that we need to hire. So all those things need to happen before we can actually send it to a bid. So we have to finalize the plan. When the plan is finalized, and they're working on it, I'm pushing as much as I can, but there's so much you can do, and there's so many loopholes, not loopholes, but red tapes that you have to go through, that it takes time.
Do you think this will be done by the end of this year, calendar year?
The building being completed, you mean?
No.
Oh, you mean having...
All these various, here it's October
are we going to
19.
have-
Do you think by December 31 there will be something ready, or might this go into 2022?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to be. So do I think? I certainly hope so. I just don't know how realistic that is. Do I want it to be? I want it to be on. I wanted to have these bids out already. But
Sure, but you have to have everything. Here we had engineers tonight. These things take some time.
Right.
And you need to get estimates and bids. And I understand that it takes a while.
Right. So I can't push them any more than I am. We are talking to them almost every week with Mojo and also with the engineers who have been nice enough to work with us. But few things we need to get done. We need to have the utilities, the place of the utilities as soon as possible. That's the main thing. And then when they have everything brought to us, then they're going to start working on other site plan and completing the building. In order for you to have any kind of a bid, you have to have a finalized plan, which we don't have. So I don't know how long that's going to take. I would say a couple of months.
Does Stumer have any idea when there might be something ready for you? Will it be this year, or will it be into
They
next
say
year?
couple of months, so I'm assuming either by January till March. So,
And then another question is, in the current year budget, there's 2 million set aside for new village hall. Is that going to be enough to pay for all the work?
it's definitely going to be enough for this year, sure.
And is there any thought that, that's what I was asking about Moody's before, that we might have to borrow funds?
I don't. First of all, I don't think we have to borrow funds. One, two. I don't think Moody's report has changed. They just did not.
No, I know,
Right.
that's gonna be restored, I don't have any
Right.
doubts
So
about that.
we are doing a lot better today than we did 3 years ago, than we did 5 years ago, than we did years ago. So I'm not worried about Moody's report at all. I don't know why it's even a concern. Things got delayed because of COVID. Everything got delayed
And we're
because
not
of
about
COVID.
to be borrowing money.
Right.
Well, it's okay, but that's why you wanna have the highest possible credit.
And I'm sure we have.
If we need it, we will.
And how about this business with getting the utilities fixed in the site of the new village hall before Basilico starts the repaving? Is there any idea when that's gonna be done? You have to have it done before they repave there.
I'm very well aware of that, and so is Mojo and all the engineers that are working with him. So I'm hoping to have it done as soon as possible.
And they haven't given, October 19th, they haven't given the village an idea when they think they can do it?
Um, who can do it? The
Whoever does the
engineers?
hookups.
Right. So the water authority knows that we want it, and we are a priority. Sewer knows that we are priority. Gas and electric know that we are priority. I'm assuming that by this week, beginning of next week, we should have the locations, and they all were well, and that's going to do it. We had the meeting. When was it? 2 days ago.
Friday afternoon. They do have
Friday.
the locations, and permits are being submitted with the county
Right.
to open the road and make the connections.
So they also know, we also have to realize that these engineers and Mojo have spoken to the county. They are aware that we are submitting, so I don't think they're going to jump into doing anything. And they still have a while to go. We're doing the sides, the sidewalks, the curbs. They have to do all of that before they come in. And I don't believe that they're going to do piecemeal. I think they're going to do the entire place, and then they're going to bring a whole crew and do the milling, and then they're going to do the whole thing. Because I don't think they want to have months of repair.
Right, and is there any idea when this whole thing will be done? Will it be
Well,
done in November or before December?
Whole thing, you're talking about the road?
Yeah, the whole
Okay.
shebang on Middle Neck
Right.
Road.
The whole shebang, I was told in the beginning last year, they said before the summer, then they said during the summer, then they said right after the summer, then they said before the fall. Now it's in the fall. Now it's before the winter, and I don't know. I don't have control. I don't have control over that.
Well, it sounds like something out of the book of Amos, where you had the spring and summer, and people haven't been saved yet. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. No more comments? All right. I move to adjourn. Okay. Oh.